Duffey, and I'll recognize myself first for questions. Why do you think that the industrial base keeps shrinking?
That's a great question, one that we're wrestling with every day in the department, because I strongly believe, and I believe my colleagues believe, competition is our friend. And with contracting defense industrial base, we are losing the benefit of competition. I think there's a couple challenges. Number one, we are dependent on exquisite systems. We have technological superiority, and it's difficult, and we are a single customer for a lot of those. And so we have to be creative about how do we open up the opportunity for new entrants to bring this kind of exquisite capability that our warfighter demands in order to maintain competition with the adversary. But I think there's also a lot of opportunity for us to think through how to streamline what it takes to do business with the federal government, the regulations that the SPEED Act goes after, the complexity of the requirements process, and the delay that it takes in order to articulate a need and get to a contract, I think tests the patience and the financial viability of trying to create a venture to do business with the federal government. We're committed to working through that internally. We're encouraged by the work that the committee has done to create legislation that will streamline those processes, in particular the requirements process, where I think we've got a real opportunity to reduce the timeline, to identify a need, bring it to the marketplace, and encourage the innovation of industry to bring creative solutions to help solve that problem, where maybe we don't have to be as dependent on the exquisite systems, because innovation is bringing capability that the Pentagon may not have birthed itself.
I think that last statement really hits the nail on the head. You talked about in your opening statement about leveraging commercial solutions. How are you going to balance this need that we have to be able to repair our own equipment and at the same time protect the privately funded intellectual capital that these companies put into these systems?
Well, that innovation and the innovation of industry and the protection of that intellectual property is clearly a competitive advantage for us. And so finding the way to preserve that is critical. I think the data as a service proposal from the SPEED Act is a unique, innovative approach because there is a need for us to have access to the technical data that we need in order to maintain the ability to sustain these systems organically. God forbid we're in a place where the sustainment exceeds the industrial capacity because we are engaged in conflict. We must have an organic industrial base that understands how to leverage the technical data of these systems in order to repair them. And so finding a balance between preserving the intellectual property and providing the department with the access we need to data is a challenge that we're undertaking now. We look forward to working with you in the committee to identify what is the sweet spot of balancing both those needs.
Well, as you probably are aware, we put language in the NDA that passed out of here last week that addresses that. It still needs some love and attention, so we would urge your participation in that process. I think we have the attention of the private sector now, our industry partners. But as you know, this NDA is going to be an evolving product over the next 6 to 8 weeks. So we look forward to a lot of input from you and our industry partners on that topic. As the department works to expand its critical munitions production, you know, one of the things we found in this Ukrainian endeavor, our effort to help Ukraine, is we've seen our stockpiles reduce and had to address this atrophy that we have in our munitions production infrastructure. How are you partnering with our allies, or are you partnering with our allies on co-production and ways to advance interoperability of these systems?
Thank you for the question. I had the opportunity within the first week following being confirmed to visit the Paris Air Show, where I had a chance to meet with all of my counterparts, the national armaments directors of our European allies, Australia, UK, others. And there's considerable interest in how do we explore co-production. My sense is this is really a new area, that we do have some co-production agreements, but we don't have it quite as expansively as it could be. And so inside the department, I'm partnered with the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy to think through what are those conditions under which it's advantageous for us and our allies to enter a co-production agreement. I think one thing we're confronting as we're looking through growth opportunities in the defense industrial base, there are limitations to everything. There's limitations to raw materials and subcomponents, workforce expertise, And so thinking through how do we create an agreement and an arrangement with our allies and partners such that the sum of the whole is greater than the parts when it comes to expanding production is a key element of it. And so I think there's considerable interest. There's complexity, as I mentioned, to the calculation. Do the allies and partners have sufficient demand to justify the economic cost of establishing co-production within their industry? And so I think we are working through how do we help explore these opportunities in a way that's thoughtful.
That goes to the second part of my question, though, and that's what I was really getting at. You know, the ranking member and I have traveled a lot through Europe and talked with our allies in NATO about the challenges. And part of it is interoperability. We need to all be using the same munitions so that if one of us gets into a conflict, we can use what the others have to provide. So that's part of what I'm hoping you'll push in the dialogue with these folks, is that we can all produce it. And if we will all start using these common systems, there's going to be customers because different countries are going to be buying at different times. This is something that General Donahue, who's leading our European Army forces, has really been a proponent of, and he's got 2 followers in me and the ranking member, and then that's the path forward. So I hope you'll be focused in on that. With that, I'll yield to the ranking member for his question.